Welcome to the apartment. My name is Ali Baluch. Missing is our co-host Asif Ali. This is actually the first interview that I've done without a co-host, which was a little bit weird for me, but I think we kind of got the hang of it throughout the episode. This is the apartment. It's our chance to sit with our favorite content creators, influencers, entertainers, comedians, athletes, musicians, and just really figure out what influences them and their work ethic. And that's exactly what this episode is really focused on. We have the brilliant, insightful Hasan Minhaj from The Daily Show. And we really dive into the sacrifices that he had to make, the challenges that he had to overcome, and just his work ethic, because that's what he's known for in the industry, is just how hard he works. And right now he is touring. He had right now he has 20 shows left of his one-man show that he's been doing, Homecoming King. The link is in the description. If you want to watch his one-man show, I highly recommend it. We all watched it yesterday when he was here in LA, and it just blew us away. We are on Facebook, so go and check out our Facebook. I think it's facebook.com/apartmentpodcast. Something like that, but just look up The Apartment with Asif and Lee. You'll find us. And also, if you can't sit here for the full hour and some minutes, check us out on iTunes on the go. Listen to us in the car. And for you fellow Android users, man, we are also on Stitcher. So if you don't have iTunes or the iPod thing, which, we Android users, we don't need that. We got Stitcher. We're there too. We're on SoundCloud as well. So this is episode 6 with Hasan Minhaj. All right, ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, this is so tight. This is so funny to me.
All right. All right. Usually I have Asif, so this is like first time I'm doing this solo.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I have to do your intro.
Right.
Okay. So today we have. Okay, I'm gonna do it.
Do it the real way.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do like Hasan.
No. I talk about it in the show.
Yeah. We have Hasan Minhaj.
Yeah.
He's a stand-up comedian, actor, writer, and producer from Davis, California. Hasan made it on the comedy scene in LA, being on numerous commercial spots, and then being the host of Philosophy on MTV. Now Hasan is a senior correspondent on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, formerly Jon Stewart, for the millennials who haven't really caught on, or the older generation that don't know the switch.
Right. And
is touring the country with this sold-out show, Homecoming King, which, by the way, we saw last night, and it was incredible. So welcome to the apartment, man.
Dude, thanks for coming. Thanks for having me, actually.
No, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for making time. You've done a lot of podcasts like we just talked about.
We're keeping it strictly Koreatown right now. I had to drop in for this, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure,
This is so meta to me because I'm seeing Zayn and Zayn. Like, I'm seeing hashtag Team Lightskin right here.
Team Lightskin. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because whenever I color correct the episodes, I try to make it a little I'm like, why am I so pasty? Because I'm next to Asif.
Oh,
and I'm like, damn.
right.
And I didn't realize how pasty I was until I'm sitting next to Asif.
No, me and Asif, we're Indian brothers. We got a lot of melanin. So.
Oh, for sure, man. I just want to really jump into things, because I know people who know you. Mm-hmm. I think I kind of know you as well a little bit.
Yeah.
And I heard some things that it was like, okay. Before that, what was the first spark for you to be like, I want to get into comedy? What was that moment?
Yeah. So I did speech and debate and FBLA in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Future Business Leaders
of America. And you have to do impromptu speaking and then academic decathlon, same thing. So speech and debate sort of stuff. And to me, I had never really been exposed to stand-up comedy. And then I went into college, and a buddy of mine, Imran J, actually, who
our producer on the show.
Producer, he had downloaded all this stuff, all this comedy.
Yeah.
And he was he was watching it on his little laptop.
Yeah.
And I went into his apartment, and we were watching Chris Rock's Never Scared. So this dates it to 2004.
Okay.
And I walk in, it's Chris Rock's Never Scared, maroon suit.
Yeah.
And I look at it, I was like, oh, this is funny speech and debate.
Yeah.
And it clicked in that moment. I was like, oh, that's what funny speech and debate.
Yeah. Comedy,
stand-up. That's what stand-up is.
Yeah.
I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
This is the thing. And that was the spark that I was like, all right, I got to do it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then what was Mr. India West Coast?
That was a thing where I needed a tape.
Okay.
So when I first discovered stand-up, I was like, okay, I need I went to Google, and it was how to become a stand-up comedian. Okay. And it was you need a headshot, you need a tape, You need to whatever, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Call your local comedy club. I was like, easy. I'll call my local comedy club. Now, I hadn't been exposed to any comedy really at this point. The only stand-up comedy that I'd seen at that point was Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's the worst part of stand-up. Where he's like, that's the worst part of the episode where he's standing in front of the brick.
Yeah, the intro.
And and he's like, what's the deal with laundry? And you're like, this is it?
Yeah.
That's stand-up? I don't like stand-up. Get to the episode, Jerry.
Yeah.
And so when it said call your local comedy club, I was like, okay. So I go to the Sacramento Punchline website. I look up who was playing that weekend, and it was Dave Chappelle, but I didn't know who it was.
Ooh.
I had no idea who Dave Chappelle was.
Yeah.
So I called the comedy club. I was like, hi, I was wondering, can I open for Dave Chappelle this weekend? And they were like,
oh
who?
My God.
Yeah, they're like, Dave Chappelle? They're like, excuse me? I said, yeah, Dave Chappelle. Can I open for Dave Chappelle? And they thought I was like prank calling them. What? Chappelle season 1 had like come out at this point, but still I was just behind the zeitgeist.
That was in maybe
04.
That was like 2 years after Killing Him Softly.
Yeah. So it's season 1 of Chappelle, or maybe it had just dropped.
Yeah.
But he was turning that corner from being like everybody in comedy knew who he was to like everybody knew who he was. Mm-hmm. So I then the lady on the phone thought I was sort of pranking her. So she was like, you need a tape. Give me a tape. Give me a headshot. Give me all this stuff. I was like, oh my. So then I start looking up how much photographers are. I start looking up how much all this stuff is. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. How am I going to get a tape?
Yeah.
And then my sister tells me, she's like, oh, there's this like Mr. India thing, and you can do a talent.
Yeah.
And if you do the talent, they also tape it for like ZTV and whatever.
Perfect.
So they'll take photographs of you, and you do this talent show thing. And I was like, okay, sweet. I sign up. I do it.
Yeah.
For the tape to do the talent. My talent. Like guys were up there, they were going up there and they were singing. They were like doing bhangra. They were doing like really traditional stuff. And then I did stand-up comedy. And I took this tape and basically these photographs of me in like a tuxedo on stage. And then I sent that to sent that to the club. I came to the club, and the lady who I had talked to on the phone, I was like, here you go. This is my tape and this is my headshot. Yeah. And she was like, what is this? Mm-hmm. And I was like, the tape and headshot that you wanted. And she's like, just come every Sunday. Yeah. She's like, you're the kid who was saying Dave Chappelle? Yeah, I just told you to do that because I didn't know if you were like a crazy person. Just come every Sunday. Yeah. And that's when I started coming to the Punchline, waiting and lining up in the back of the Punchline on Sundays to try to get stage time. So that was like the beginning of it all. So
you used this competition, and I heard you won.
I won.
You won Mr. India.
Won. Yeah.
Mr. India West Coast.
California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. India California. That was pretty crazy, man. To use that and then be like, okay, I'm going to like use that as like practice and as resources, for
But I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, you just get pushed into the ocean and you're like, I'll do whatever I can to swim.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, hey man, whatever I got to do to get what I need to get on stage.
Yeah.
So
when you started off, were you a strong comedian?
No, I don't think so.
One thing that kind of sets you apart from a lot of other comedians is your work ethic. I think you're kind of recognized in the industry and in the comedy scene for your work ethic, What was that like push where you're like, because you've developed in like the past 15 years, you developed to who you are right now, so how did that like happen? Like what kind of hours did you put in? Like where, because like there isn't a comedy scene in Davis. Like correct. I don't like Davis is not, nor is Sacramento known for. Yeah.
So for me, it was just like when you grow up in a small town, and you're like a child of immigrants or whatever, you're just like, I got to do whatever it takes to try to get by to do it. And also, I'm the eldest. So I don't have any really like structure support. I didn't have guidance. I didn't have elder siblings. Yeah. I didn't have mentors, right? Because when I started doing comedy, it was 2004. You got to understand Russell's big YouTube break. Remember, somebody's going to get hurt real bad? That came out, I think, November 2005. Yeah. It came out like 2000. And that's when it was like, an Indian stand-up
Exactly. So before that, there was nobody like outside of like other people of color like Lopez and Mencia. There was like really nobody.
Now, I know like Maz Jobrani, Ahmed, those guys were doing it, but not in a way where like...
They weren't mainstream.
Anybody in any town America knows who these guys are.
Because Russell went viral, and everybody knew that one line. But for you to be like... Because it's hard for... Especially, I'm sure you were like, 18 at the time,
18, yeah.
To be like, there's no other brown dudes in comedy that are like South Asian or Middle Eastern or whatever. Yeah. What kind of made you think that like I can actually do this?
So 2004 was like you talk about Malcolm Gladwell, like
10,000 hours.
10,000 hours, outliers moment. Yeah. The outlier moment for me was when 2004, I'm walking through downtown Davis, and I walked past Holiday Cinema, and I saw the poster for Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. And that's when I was like, it just blew my mind.
Kal Penn.
I saw Kal Penn and John Cho.
Yeah, totally forgot about
on the
Kal
movie
Penn.
poster.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was like, oh, it's possible. And then just knowing that it was possible was a game changer. What if I had decided to start comedy in, say, the year 2000?
Yeah.
Maybe the circumstances of the business would have gotten me down to realize that it wouldn't have been possible. But the fact that I started in 04, then in 05, Russell blows up.
Yeah.
Then in like 07, I hear about Aziz Ansari.
Yeah.
Then in like 09, I hear about Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah.
Then in like all these things start happening where it's encouragement.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man, like this is feasible.
Okay.
That, and like at that same time I hear about like Asif Manvi. Like, so I'm like, oh, there's a real legitimate thing here.
Yeah.
So
you didn't see it as, damn, these guys are going to take my spot.
No, I just thought like this is possible.
Do you feel like other people felt that when you kind of made it? Like, oh, like, there are only a certain select slots for like Indian brown comedian.
Oh, you mean minorities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you take it and somebody else is like, he didn't deserve that.
Man, I think when you really get into it, especially when you really start to think about casting in television, movies, and etc.
Yeah.
They see everybody. So look, they really, 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 really want that perfect thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, trust me, when I've seen friends get other roles, and I'll watch them do it, and I'm like, man, they can do that better than me.
Yeah.
That dude, I remember like I auditioned for Pitch Perfect, and then my buddy Utkarsh Ambudkar got it, and Utkarsh is like incredible. He's an incredible rapper and singer.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do what he does.
Yeah.
He's amazing. So to me, the cool thing about starting comedy was you're basically just developing your own unique skill set.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, these are my superpowers, so I'm just going to cultivate them and like make them as good as I possibly can.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go back to what you're talking about, like that 10,000 hours, right? Developing your skill and like honing it down,
Right.
So like, all right, so Davis, college town, small town, not known for comedy. Where would you go? What would you do?
Right. So I would go to Sacramento and drive to San Francisco for open mics.
And how often would you go out to SF?
SF, I would go like several times a week.
So, and that's like a hour and a half to 2 hour
drive. Yeah. And then what I figured out is like, and again, like I'm lucky. I grew up during the internet.
Yeah.
Like in social media, right? It was just starting to take off. So one thing I learned was that I was like, oh, like colleges, clubs, they get budgets.
Yeah.
You can, if you open up a club, you can get a budget to do activities.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why don't I, if I can't always drive to the comedians, I can bring the comedians to me.
Yeah.
So why don't I put together a club, apply for money, and then invite comedians, acts to my university and put on these shows. Then I can get a ton of stage time opening for these guys. So I put together this comedian group called Gridiron Gang with Imran. It was me, Imran, and Greg, this guy named Greg. And the three of us put together the show. Greg was a popular improviser. Imran was like a filmmaker, comedian, and I was doing comedy. And then we would invite bigger comedians to come in and do the show with us. Yeah. And it gave us a ton of stage time, and it just got me to be able to spend time around comedians that were more experienced than me. Yeah. I just kept building. That's all I kept doing was like, this is where I'm at in my life. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. I'm going to do this Gridiron Gang college comedy open mic circuit to the best of my ability. I'll bring in, I thought, these guys were big acts from San Francisco. Yeah. I'll bring them in. And these guys went on to go become real headliners. Reggie Steele, Moshe Kasher, Ali Wong, Mo Mandel. These guys are, they're doing great. W. Kamau Bell. These guys are doing great. Yeah. Now I got all this exposure to them. Then I moved to San Francisco after graduation. And then I was like, man, I want to be one of the best comedians in San Francisco. I want to just be as good as I possibly can. And then I moved to LA. Yeah. Yeah.
Your comedy, just watching your stand-up a lot, you haven't really relied on the whole Indian accent, right? Impersonations of parents,
Right. But I do talk about parents.
You do talk about parents,
right?
But in a very smart, thought-out way. It's not like, accent and let me do a silly little accent for a gag, you know?
Okay.
What kind of like prevented you from like continuing that, you know? Because there are people of color that, you know, whatever their minorities, they'll go up on stage and they'll do like the Iranian accent of imitate their parents, or the, you know, like they'll speak Spanish, you know, if they're, but then like, and there are Indian comedians who go up there and just do that, like.
Yeah, I don't think I was very good at it. And
so you tried it?
I mean, I've tried it. I mean, of course, like when you're a kid and you're imitating your parents, I just wasn't very good at it. And there's guys, look, I honestly, I don't discriminate. Like, if that's what your strength is, if that's what your superpower is, go for it. It just wasn't my strength.
Okay.
So to me, it was just, I just kept trying to, and it took me a long time to like, I don't think I'm a great stand-up. So it's like, I'm still just trying to chip away.
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing like my buddy Fahim, you know Fahim, right?
Of course, yeah. He's on the podcast. He'll be coming soon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing him in like 05, 06, and just like, he has it.
Yeah.
He has it. His brain works that way.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, I just kept with it to be like, I want to double down on my strengths.
Yeah.
You know, and just find the things that I'm good at and really hone those skill sets.
So what was Burbank, California to you? How did that city play a role?
I mean, it was just hard. I mean, moving to LA was just hard.
Okay. Burbank,
Studio City, Pasadena. I first moved to Pasadena, then Burbank, then Studio City. But yeah, it was just rough.
And did you give yourself, so how was it? Did you give yourself like a deadline? Because I remember the last time you mentioned, you were like, you gave yourself 1 year. And you're like, if I don't make it in this 1 year.
I don't know if it was I don't make it. I think it was my LSAT score was expiring.
Oh, okay.
And so that was a big thing. So I was butting heads with my parents. To me, the stuff was inching along fine.
Yeah.
But it was getting, you know, when I first moved, Los Angeles is a difficult place to crack.
Of course, yeah.
And like, it's a really, really tough business that I think LA versus New York really emphasizes the end product. Like, are you on a hit show or not? Yeah. Are you famous or not? And it doesn't admire the build as much as, say, New York does. I'll give you an example. If you put up a show in New York, like what I was doing, like a one-man show, you would start the show at, say, like a public theater. The public then cultivates your show. Yeah. They fund it. They produce it. They bring in people to watch it. People come and watch a show that's still in progress because that's fun for them. Yeah. So there's a respect and admiration for even a thing that's being developed. Yeah. Then you go off Broadway. Yeah. Right? And you do a run at the Public, or you do the run at the Cherry Lane or whatever. Then you go on Broadway. And people for 12 shows a week will come out Tuesday, matinee. I'm here to pay to see a show. Yeah. It's incredible. Whereas in LA, it's like, are you on a hit show? Are you on one of the 5 most popular shows? Okay, if you're not, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If you didn't, you know, there's no respect for all these hardcore actors that are busting their butt trying to work, that are honing their craft. And there's also not a respect for that craft or a stage for that to be admired. Yeah. You know, and so it was really hard for me in LA. I remember I lived with this guy who was like a trainer and his girlfriend, and I was sleeping on an air mattress. It was just hard. It was just really hard.
How long was that for?
I was living like that pretty much until like, until I moved to the spot in downtown. Remember at the Visconti? Yeah, you've been there. So what was that, like 2012, 2013?
That was 2012, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I and that's when, you know, my like fiance like really was like get it together. Yeah. You know, and I really credit her with giving me this feeling of like, hey, no matter what this industry gives or doesn't give you, that's not what's going to fill up your soul and give you validation. Like, get a bed. Yeah. Don't sleep on an air mattress. Like, decorate your apartment. Like, get a couch. Like, do these things and live like a human being because you deserve to. Yeah. And getting engaged to her and making the decision to get married and all that stuff, and to be like, to seek validation from my own personal life accomplishments. Yeah. I think that just changed the game for me. And I just looked at the world differently. Yeah. Like I had my own personal checklist. Am I good to Bina? Am I good to my wife? Am I good to my family? Am I doing the dishes? Like, I totally just like sort of separated myself from being like a comedian slob with like dishes piled up, and I'm eating Hot Pockets, and and I'm watching Netflix getting angry, like why I can't get that development deal. Those are two very different paths.
Of course.
You know?
And I'm glad you bring that up because you and Asif are the two, I wouldn't say like happiest, but you guys.
Asif is extremely happy.
He has, I feel like he has a lot of reasons to be happy, but you guys are the least crankiest, the least cynical comedians I've come across.
Yes.
Why? How did that happen? You know? Because like a lot of comedians that I've met in LA, like I would hang out at the comedy club watching you or watching Fahim, and these comedians are just not really too happy with themselves or maybe even other people's success.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's kind of opposite for you guys. You guys are very excited for other people's success as well.
Yeah.
What kind of like sparked you to be like, I'm not going to fall down that?
I remember I was listening to Pete Holmes' podcast. Pete Holmes had this story about how in New York, this one comic was coming up really fast. He was like ascending to he was taking the elevator. Everybody else was taking the stairs. And then he remembers all of these comedians at the bar hating on this guy. And he was like 3 years later, 4 years later, none of those guys were doing comedy anymore. And he was like, dude, jealousy is like cancer.
Yeah.
It'll just kill you. It'll slowly eat away at you and just kill your creativity and just kill everything good, every good cell in your body. And so to me, I was like, man, I just got to get to work, not worry about what other people are doing or not doing. If it serves as inspiration, awesome.
Yeah.
You know, if it doesn't, so be it.
Yeah. So one of like the first big, I would you call like a big break was MTV's Philosophy?
I would say the first big break was probably 2000. So San Francisco big break was winning Wild 94.9's Comedy Jam thing, where I got to open for all the big headliners that came into town.
Yeah.
That was really big for me because there was a competition where all the local comedians had to compete to open.
Yeah.
And so it was just an open competition, and I won that.
Okay.
That was crazy because I basically had to beat out other comics that I like look up to and have to like, you know, go up with every night. There's that. Then at the end of that, getting the Stand Up for Diversity and NBC Stand Up for Diversity, that got me to LA.
Okay.
Getting the college touring deal, that got me, you know, that allowed me to pay rent.
Yeah.
You know, and then Philosophy, MTV's Philosophy was big for me in the sense that it was one of those things where they were looking for a late night host for this MTV show, and they like auditioned every comic. Every comic went out to, you know, host the show.
Yeah.
And just being able to go through that whole process, auditioning once, auditioning twice, auditioning 3 times, like keep coming back, and then to get it, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah. You know, you had that, and then there was like a short run on State of Georgia.
Correct. Yeah. That was another thing.
Yeah. You had like a recurring
character. Yeah.
So Philosophy got, I don't know if the wounds have healed, but Philosophy did get canceled after like season 1.
And I got reamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard. Yeah. And I saw some of the, just doing the research.
We were promoting it and doing a Reddit AMA.
Reddit, yeah. That's what I read. I went through that.
I got ethered.
Yeah. Did you kind of feel like, how'd you feel? Did you feel like it was your fault? I mean, because it goes much more. It goes like there's so many like little things about a channel. I'm sure you know, but you know, if people who are listening, there's so many things that go into like a show being canceled, the time slot, the writing. There's so many things. It's not just the host, you know. But like, how did you kind of feel like it might have fallen on you for a little bit, or how did you feel after when it got canceled as well?
Well, I mean, I didn't have perspective on it at the time.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, I'm just getting bashed. And what I realized is that, like, look, there's only so much control I have in this situation.
Yeah.
I got cast by producers, writers, and creators and a network for this specific show.
Yeah.
So the show was already set. It is an internet clip show. There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
You just got to go in and do it. And when we're promoting the show, I happen to do a Reddit AMA, and Reddit is not a forum that likes that sort of stuff. They are like hardcore. Which, by the way, I use Reddit. I like Reddit.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of like the same thing but online though? Because you know, I've never
memes.
Actually,
Yeah, sure.
You know, and those users are okay.
Yeah, but they're like, this is corny. This is dumb.
Yeah,
like, this is the worst show ever.
Okay.
And so to me, look, I was like, look, I didn't feel embarrassed by the work I did. I think I did the best I possibly could on that show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and look, I can only do the best I can within that format.
Yeah.
It is an internet clip show. I can only make that as funny as that is.
Yeah.
But it did hurt a lot. I was like, man, maybe I suck. You know?
Yeah, of course.
Because they were just like, you suck. The show sucks. I want to punch you in the face. Like, they're just ruthless.
Yeah,
just,
the internet.
Just ruthless.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just started to realize, like, I think that if I'm going to fall on a sword, I should fall on the sword that I actually write and create and make myself.
Yeah.
So that's right also around the time Goatface started happening.
Yeah.
And then that was sort of another chapter in my life.
Because that sparked the Truth with Hasan.
Yeah.
Series.
And that was a whole like new chapter of like my creative process.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, 2014, you audition and for The Daily Show.
Yeah. And we worked together on the audition.
We did. I dressed up as an Afghan.
So wait, when you got the call from me to do this, why did you say yes? Like, why were you like?
Because man, like I legitimately love you, Asif, Hasan. I mean, your Fahim and Ari. So like, I was in film school, and I used to watch your stuff. You know, like your videos. And film school students suck at everything. You know, they're not good. That's why we're in school, to be good, you know? So they would make these comedic videos, and these kids swore they're like, their stuff was funny. And I'm sitting there in the library, and I'm like, and I pull up, I'm like, nah, this is funny. Like, these videos are funny.
Right.
And then, so the respect I had for you guys, and then being able to like collaborate with you guys.
Yeah. And
it's just like, I saw like, you guys were extremely talented. So I wanted to see everybody succeed. I wanted Asif to succeed. I wanted Fahim. So anytime like Asif would be like, oh, I'm on this pilot, I would be like, oh, it was so like finally, man, like somebody's with talent is getting this shot. Fahim's getting like Conan and Seth Meyers. Like finally, like somebody's getting these. And then when you're like, yo, Jon Stewart, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Bro, like, break that glass ceiling or whatever, you know. This is incredible. So I was like, whatever it is, man, let me know how I can help in any way. Yeah. But so you did that, and John loved it, and I don't want to go into it because you talk about it in the Homecoming King. Or not just Homecoming King.
Yeah.
Which is your one-man show.
Correct.
Which I don't want to like pull things from that show because I want it to just be as untouched for this.
Okay.
Because I really want to encourage everybody like me and Yusuf watched it last night, and right after Yusuf was like, holy shit.
Really?
Like, holy shit.
That's awesome.
He was like, that was incredible, you know.
Right.
And I was like, wow. Yeah. A little side note about the show.
Right.
Why'd you choose Gone at the end? Kanye, Cameron, Consequence.
2 reasons. The show is over. So when the song Gone is like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Also, the last line of the show, I'll just say the last word of the show is down. But the way the sample is on Gone, it's almost like gone.
Yeah.
Down, gone. Like it almost like it matches.
Yeah.
Also, it's a very, if you listen to Gone, the way the bass line kicks in, it's a very mic drop. Gone, boom.
Yeah.
You sweater.
Yeah.
And I ain't talking about Cool J.
Yeah.
You a Big L, and I ain't talking about Cool J.
Yeah.
It's like it goes right in like that.
Okay. That was just like a thing I really want, because like when it came out, when the 05 when college,
it's a great song.
Late registration.
It's also very much like it's a slept on song on that album. People sleep on Gone.
And it's not even like like the song, like I would like be in the car and I would show people, I'm like, all right, check this out. And I'd like go on the equalizer thing and I'd put all the speakers to the right side. And it's the strings. It's only the strings. And I'd switch it to the other side, and it's like the piano and everything. I'm like, I love that song. That was one of my favorites off.
But it's very much Gone. Like the theme of the shows. I'm out. I'm gone. right?
Yeah.
And at that moment, at the end where you're at, where we close the show, it's very much like a peace out. This is it. It's a wrap.
And you guys,
so it matches. To me, it thematically matched with what I was trying to say.
For sure.
You know, in that. Yeah.
And it was just on such a high note.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was just like a little side tangent.
Sure.
So you get this Daily Show gig,
right?
A job.
Mm-hmm.
You pack up, move to New York.
Correct.
How was the New York comedy scene? Did they? First of all, when you got this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just watched Don't Think Twice.
Oh, I gotta go see it.
Oh,
yeah,
it was so good.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, was that kind of how it was for Hasan, where it was like people like your peers were like, you didn't deserve that, like, and then they would see you on TV. Did you get any sense? Were there whispers? Were there like, I deserve, like, how did he get that spot? For
me with the Daily Show, I don't know, a lot of my friends gave me a lot of love. I didn't hear a lot of the other whispers. I'm very lucky that I don't hear that stuff.
Yeah.
But I truly felt, what actually made me feel good was when I got the thing, I was like, I can really do this. Like, I think this is what I can really do, this specific skill set really well.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was a cast player on SNL, be like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I felt like I could step into it. It was overwhelming to work with John, who I think is like, you know, just political satirist legend.
Yeah.
But it was like, I can do this thing. I think I have something to add here.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, you were like, right, the last year basically.
Yeah, last year, like year and a half. Yeah.
And that was like incredible, you know. And
such a great run. Yeah.
So, do you still do comedy though in New York?
In New York, yes.
Because like
I continue to do comedy. Yeah.
Okay, so you work your hours, and then after the show,
correct,
you'd go to like a mic,
right? So right before I got the show, I was already developing Homecoming King as a solo show.
Yeah.
In movie script.
Okay.
And I had developed it at the Sundance Labs.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And so I did the New Frontier Lab, which is like a hybrid of storytelling. Like, are you a stage storyteller?
Yeah.
Are you know how they do like they do artists that like they'll do projection artists.
Yeah,
they'll do projection artists, tell a narrative, film. It's a hybrid of everything. And so I developed the stage show there with my director Greg Wallach, and that was right at the moment that I had booked Daily Show. And so I was like, man, this is a blessing in disguise. I'm now moving to New York, which is a place that really admires and loves theater. Man, I'm going to take my show and do it there. I still had to develop it for like another year, like just work on it, tweak on it, figure out, like themes and continue to workshop with my director. But then we put it up, and I was doing Daily Show and,
so
you're the one-man show.
You're still in New York. You kind of like, you're like familiar with the comedy scene.
I was new to the comedy scene, but what's great is that there's so many stages in New York, and there's such an audience depending on your neighborhood. What I love about New York is every borough has a very like definitive feel to it. So if you do a show in Brooklyn has a feel to it.
Yeah.
There's local residents of Brooklyn, artists, blah, 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 that come to, say, Union Hall. That's a different part of Brooklyn. That has a different energy from Hannibal's show, which is at where is I'm forgetting the place, which is different from Bar Matchless, which is another Brooklyn show, which is different from the Comedy Cellar, which is the Village, which is different from another club that's on the Upper West Side, which is different from Caroline's, which is like in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah, and
each of those places has a very specific clientele that goes there.
Yeah.
And real like civilians come out to these shows from each of those respective boroughs and areas. Yeah. And that to me was such a great opportunity to just get up on stage a ton.
How was your relationship with like Russell Peters?
It's great.
Yeah.
Russell's one of the first big comics that I opened for.
Exactly. Yeah. So how did like international comedian be able to, how did you meet him? How did he kind of like allow you to open for him? Because he's a superstar.
He's a superstar.
Yeah.
So I had been passed at the Punchline, and they give you like 3 weekends a year that we get to open for a headliner. And Molly, God bless her, she linked me up with Russell. Was like, you should open for him. So I got to open for him that weekend. That was one of my 3 weekends I got to open that year. And I met Russell, and Russell was one of the first people that I met that you can be a good person and a great talent at the same time. You don't have to sacrifice either. John was another person that I met where he's a really good person and a great talent. Stephen Colbert, another good person, great talent. Yeah. What I mean by that, ethically.
Oh, you can even tell just through their delivery and their stand-up, and it's just, I don't know, I guess it just radiates from them that they're not like, when the camera's cut, they're not like, hanging, you know, like breaking things and we'll do it live.
Yeah, Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
So Russell was one of those guys where I remember just seeing that side of him where I was like, hey, can my parents come to the show? Sure thing. He walks over to the manager, is like, hey, give them the best seat in the house. And the Sacramento Punchline, there's these two like back corner, there are these little like booths. Yeah. They're the only two booths in the club. Yeah. He's like, yeah, give him that whole booth. And the show's like sold out, 10 shows or 8 shows sold out. Yeah, give him that booth. Yeah. And I remember he did that. And then when the show was over, people are filing out. And then I walk into the green room and he goes, bring in your mom and dad. Just proactively being nice. Where's your mom and dad? Yeah. I bring in my mom and dad, door opens. And he's like, mom, dad, calls them mom, dad, hug. Like really awesome stuff.
Beautiful.
2, 3rd, when the check comes to open, he was like double his money.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And like just all that stuff where I was like, man, you can be really incredibly successful, but you can also be gracious and kind, and it doesn't take away from your success. It doesn't mean you're soft or not talented or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's awesome because, you know, rumor has it that, you know, early on in your career, you had a little run-in with another South Asian comedian, Aziz.
Right. We never had a run-in.
Okay.
That's the thing. We never worked together.
So was it just a rumor?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was that. I mean, that's just hearsay. There was no bump. There was no bumping of heads because we never met. But I saw him. He came to the Daily Show, and you know, I saw him when he was promoting Modern Romance.
Okay.
His book.
Yeah. Okay. So there's never a moment where he kicked you off a show.
No, we never physically met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like for the longest time, I outside of like maybe like Richard Pryor and like Bill Cosby, it was just like a white man's game.
Sure.
You know, maybe like you throw in like 1 or 2 females here and there.
Right.
For like, I'm talking about like mainstream headlining, sold out shows. Yeah. You know, do you feel like now with social media, it's helped make it more diverse?
I think social media and the internet has just revolutionized the game. Yeah. Like this idea of like of mainstream. It's just like, do you have an audience? Do you not?
Yeah.
That's really it. Mm-hmm. So to me, I stopped looking at it at the game of like, oh, will the industry accept it, so on and so forth. Like Hamilton is one of the biggest Broadway musicals ever.
Yeah.
And it is written by. Are we okay?
No, yeah. This is Koreatown. This is why we do it in the apartment.
Okay.
Because things are like, it's just natural.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on? Is there a woodpecker outside?
Yeah, and we just ignore it.
Yeah. So yeah, like Hamilton is one of the most successful Broadway shows of the year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and it, you know, that is such a brown and black show. Mm-hmm. It's like performers of color playing the founding fathers in hip hop, like super, you know, not mainstream, but it is. And if it is just fantastic, and it found its audience, and it appeals to everybody. Yeah. So to me, it's like, it's not a matter of like, maybe it's just my own personal opinion. I just don't want to put onus on anybody else. I'm just going to work for myself and try to make those opportunities happen.
Do you still read?
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember like, just ignore the knocking.
Sure.
Because when I would come to your apartment, like when we were like shooting your room or something, you just had like these books.
Right.
And it was all these like different kind of books everywhere. You know, you had like Michael Jordan and some other authors and other books.
Right.
What like made you continue reading? To like, because I really don't know that many people that are as passionate about reading. I don't know if it's a passion, but you just read a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think you even brought up the library. Like, oh, this is from the library. I was like, you go to the library?
Yeah, the downtown LA library, man.
Like,
I used to hit the DTLA library. DTLA librray is great. It's beautiful in there, man.
I haven't stepped foot in a library in Los Angeles for the past 4 years that I've been here.
Go to the library.
So what was this whole like love for books?
For me, it was just I don't know. My sister was really a voracious reader. Yeah, and she's so bright. And everybody I know that was really doing it. Yeah, like really doing it on any level. Whether it's an author or a filmmaker or whatever, you find out they're voracious readers.
Yeah.
Everybody. Lin-Manuel Miranda, voracious reader. Jon Stewart, voracious reader. Stephen Colbert, voracious reader. Like, not just like, oh, I read the Harry Potter. No, they read Tolstoy, everything.
Yeah.
And so to me, also, I just I got a lot of when I feel like when I read, my brain is like working way more than when I'm like just looking at a screen.
Yeah.
And so I, reading at night and stuff like that, I just like doing that and falling asleep. And I don't know, it's weird. Like when I read at night, like my dreams are way more vivid. They're super vivid. Yeah. Whereas I don't know, when I watch movies and TV and stuff, it's not as much.
Yeah.
Which is weird because like the medium that I do work in is visual.
Yeah.
But I really like I have a graphic novel right there I'm reading.
And right there in your backpack.
Yeah, Kingdom Come.
That's crazy. Because I was gonna ask what you're reading now, but like
I'm reading Kingdom Come and I'm reading No God But God.
Okay.
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
If people want to check that out, they can. No, I only bring that up because like the things that like you, Fahim, and Asif and Ari would do always, like, because I just got to LA at that time, and I was just kind of like figuring out what to do. I was like, what do I do from here, Right. And then you would always bring a podcast and like, in this podcast and that podcast and this was like 2013.
Yeah.
I was like, what's a podcast?
Yeah, I was heavy in the podcast game.
Before podcast became the mainstream
I used to love podcasts.
And then you were on a lot of podcasts as well. And that kind of like encouraged me to get into it,
Yeah.
And what was like, and it's just like podcasts, I feel like you've always been like just searching for knowledge,
right.
From like everywhere, whether it's books or whether it's from like podcasts or wherever you can find it.
Sure.
And does that tie into your upbringing with like the heavy focus on education? Because
interesting.
Does it link back to your upbringings? Because you did finish school and you were about to go to grad school or medical school,
law
school. That's what I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you feel like your work ethic and everything that, is it education based, this like pursuit in academia, even though you're outside of the academic world,
I just feel like I'm lucky
in
the sense that I get to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I have that rare opportunity.
Yeah.
I can't throw it away.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, look, I had a 9-to-5 job. I used to work at like, a tech company. Yeah. Every job I've had, I've basically been fired from. Safeway, Office Max, and Ing. And it's like that's from 16, to 18 to 22, 23.
That's right.
And that there was just this part of me that's like, I just can't do the rigmarole.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot. There's just something intrinsically in me. I just can't do the cubicle thing, the following arbitrary rules. I can't buy. It's really hard for me to just buy in.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got to do this thing and make a career out of basically being a pirate, I feel really lucky. And because of that, it's like, this is all just, wow. So I'm reading this book and it's teaching me about something that's already going to benefit. This is awesome. Great. Like, to me, it's just like, man, I'll maximize this to the nth degree.
Yeah. So like for you, it wasn't just like chasing a dream, it was like a dream, but with a plan, because you didn't just like I want to do, I only bring this up because I have a lot of kids hitting me up on like social media. Like,
sure,
I'm moving to LA next week. And I'm like, okay, why? Like, I'm going to figure it out when I get there. I feel like what you kind of did from what I've seen is like, you're like, I have a plan. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to do this. You took, you're studying to go, but then things like, you looked at it at a more practical sense,
Yeah, instead, I just tried to take it maybe like,
because it wasn't just like
a few months at a time.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, I'm just going to close my eyes and jump. Mm-hmm. It was like, every step you took, you made sure it was like a firm step,
Yeah.
And were you balancing this like 9-to-5 work while you're doing comedy as well?
Yeah.
Because I heard like you were at a startup right after you kind of graduated.
Correct. So I'd have to bring like my laptop with the, what's the little like square thing that lets you get internet reception?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like the Verizon things.
The Air whatever.
Yeah.
The Air cards or whatever it was.
Yeah. Like the cards where you get internet connection. And then I would
Before hotspotting was
a thing, and I would go to like, I would be in the green room and I would be answering queries for tech support, basically my job.
Okay.
And then I would go on stage, come back, still answer queries,
Yeah.
Yep.
And you got fired from that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a come to Jesus moment where like my manager basically came up to me and was like, it feels like you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere else you'd want to be?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I actually knew exactly where I'd want to be. I remember it was like 8:45, 9 o'clock at night. I was still at the office, and Chappelle was doing a pop-in run at the Punchline at the time.
Yeah.
What a rare opportunity to get to go see him do like 3 hours on stage, in your town. And I was like, I know exactly where I would want to be. And I felt actually in that moment like that's like, you know exactly what you want to do. Very few people know exactly what they want to do.
Yeah.
They know like the family, the general vicinity of
something in
like
entertainment, something in like
why?
this field.
Oh, I like music videos. Okay,
Yeah.
well, what specifically? Are you talking about cinematography? Or talking about? So to me, I felt very lucky. I knew exactly what it was. And there's only one other time I heard that. Do you ever see the documentary Kobe Bryant and Muse?
I haven't.
Kobe talks about it in Muse, where he's like, I feel very lucky because I found what I loved very early on, and I was good at it.
Yeah.
So then the rest is set, basically.
Yeah.
That he's lucky.
Yeah.
So he found what he loved and he was good at it. Those are two things, and I don't want to take that out of the equation either. You also have to have a level of talent.
Yeah. Of course.
Right.
Yeah. And you got to be very honest with yourself.
So I love basketball. Growing up, I love basketball. I grew up playing with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was not good. There was you know what I mean? I hit a ceiling.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much my love for sneakers or playing, it's going to hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this year was massive for you. You've had many viral videos, especially with the Daily Show
right.
this year. And the biggest was the Correspondent's Dinner.
Right.
That was awesome.
Hijabis are going to get harassed in the streets. Members from the trans community are going to be demonized for using the bathroom. And my brothers and sisters in the African American community, their spines are going to continue to get shattered in the back of paddy wagons until we stand up and say something. And the thing that hurts me the most is I wish I would have done more.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. So how did that happen? How did you prepare for that? And this is the last question. So, because I know you're on a time crunch. How did that happen? How did you prepare for that? And how did you feel? So we'll take it first step by step. How did you?
Okay.
How did it
happen?
Just they reach out to you? Or
yeah. So
simple?
I got an offer. Like, hey, would you like to host the Congressional Correspondents' Dinner?
Yeah.
So basically, there's the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is for the president and the press, and then there's the JV,
Varsity,
congressional. Yeah.
And then
it's
the JV one.
Yeah. So this is for Congress.
Yeah.
And so it's basically the Diet Correspondents' Dinner. So I was like, sure, but I'll still do it. I mean, this is a great opportunity.
Of course.
Then so I'm just preparing for this. I have like 4 weeks to prepare for it.
Okay.
So I start, working on it, going around to the different clubs in New York, preparing my act.
Yeah.
But I basically just broke down, okay, I got 20 minutes to do this thing, 22 minutes on stage, 20 to 22. What are the chunks that I want to work on? And I just sort of broke it down into chunks. Chunk this, chunk this, chunk this, chunk this.
Yeah.
And I kept working on it. I reached out to friends, worked on it with them. Hey, these are the themes I'm hitting. Help me. I worked on it with some of the writers from The Daily Show. Worked on it with some of my writer friends here. This guy named Prashant, Trayvon, guys that I've worked with in the past before.
Yeah.
And then, keep working it. And then 3 days before the dinner, Orlando happens.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, Orlando was a very interesting thing that happened because it was specifically centered. A lot of the dialogue was centered around Congress and their inaction in regards to gun control.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is crazy that like we're in the eye of the storm and the people that are responsible for this thing are going to be in the same room that I'm performing in.
Yeah.
So then I also have to pivot and be aware. It's like Orlando was also very strange in the sense that the dude was also Muslim.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So
Afghan.
It was this really heated, just boiling thing in popular culture.
Yeah.
And the Venn diagram of all this stuff happening was right in that room. Congress, Muslim brown host, radical Islamic jihadist terrorists, that rhetoric that's going on in the space, gun control, all this is happening in one room. So I was like, I should address this. Yeah. Right? So then 3 days before I just start working on, well, what is the closing statement that I would make? And that's kind of what you saw. That's what
And the shift was like, 180 because you even were like, how do I pivot from that, you know? And then it just got very somber at that moment.
Right.
How did you, like, were you nervous? Were you like, this could be really, it could backfire because it might not be the right place to do it? Did you like ever question it, or were you like, has to happen, I have to say this?
For me, it was like, working at the Daily Show, I know, our show, Larry's show, Sam's show, Oliver's show, Steven's show, everybody, we're speaking, to the camera, to our audience.
Yeah.
But then it's just going out into the ether of our audience.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you get to look the actual people in the face.
Yeah.
Like actually look at Mitch McConnell to his face and say what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'd be remiss if I didn't take this
for sure.
shot,
Yeah. And has anyone, I like from the other correspondence dinner from White House that I've seen as well, no one's really like, the joke stopped and it was like 5 minutes of just seriousness, Were you like, how did you feel though? Like, were you like nervous?
Well, I was nervous before. I mean, you can see it on the clip that I think C-SPAN put up the whole clip. When they like brought me to the stage, I'm like nervous. You can see like I'm nervous when I'm walking up to the podium because up to that point, the whole night was just like compliments and like, yeah, we're great. Up to that point. And then they're like, and give it up for the comedian. And then I'm sort of the keynote, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm nervous because I'm like, oh man, like this is about to turn.
Yeah.
And once I sort of got going, then I was like, all right, well, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Because to me, I was like, look, either way, I'm not here to impress them. This is not what this is about.
Yeah, yeah.
And you never get invited back anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So swing for the fences.
Yeah,
like, nobody's going to remember the jokes. In all honesty, very rarely do people remember the jokes.
Yeah.
Like jokes, like they dissolve very quickly. So if there's some sort of real meaning, there's some sort of like real thing that can anchor this, some thesis statement, and it actually has a unifying theme to it, people will remember it, hopefully.
Yeah. What did John Kasich say to you right after?
Oh, that was interesting.
Because I was like, I was watching it live, and he like whispered like afterwards.
Yeah. He was actually really like, he was really
because he was one of those Republican, I didn't know if he was gonna be like.
He was actually really reasonable. He was like, look, really great stuff, really funny stuff. I just want you to know that all of us aren't just bought by by lobbyists and the NRA. And he made a really, really important point. He was like, look, I just want to let you know that, like, from my state, Ohio, it's an open carry state. For any time there's any sort of piece of legislation in regards to guns, anytime that's put on the floor and it's up for any sort of, legislation, I will get calls in a 10-to-1 ratio. 10 people being, hey, don't take away my guns, to 1 of people being like, hey, please enact some more common sense gun control. So he's like, look, I am just answering my base. So he's
his
like,
constituents.
Just from a number standpoint, their voice is louder. I'm a representative of my constituents. I'm speaking on their behalf. So, hey, there's also some responsibility for the left. You guys have to step up and do more too.
For sure.
And I was like, okay. He was actually really reasonable and rational. I respected him.
Yeah. Incredible, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming by, man.
Cool.
So,
do you guys ever close with like a question from the fans?
No, we don't care what they think.
Damn. Yo, let me ask you a question.
Okay, what's
Why
up?
are you so ruthless to everybody on Twitter?
Because
the Ali Baluch in person versus the Ali Baluch on Twitter. Is you're like emo and angry on Twitter?
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. Like you're like, yo, life is meaningless. Go kill yourself.
I don't.
And then in real life, you're like a sweetheart.
Yeah, until like if someone brings up something really dumb, and I'm just like, oh my god, why can't like, I don't know. Some people just say things because like social media is, we have like everything, all information we need is at our fingertips, and they'll ask a question that they could have easily Googled.
Right.
And it's just like a very like I'll do a hashtag, like some world tragedy would happen, and I would just write that hashtag. Right. Like
pray for Aleppo or
something. And I'll write just Aleppo, like hashtag, and then they'll be like, LOL, what? I'm like, you couldn't have like clicked, like, what does that mean? I'm like, you couldn't have just clicked that I hashtagged it for a reason, so you can click on it and read all the. So like when a lot of people just come at me with some like ridiculous things.
And you just get impatient
I'm just
because you're dealing with 14-year-olds that
sometimes, but like luckily for this podcast, our demographic is 18 to 24-year-olds. Okay. That's our like majority, and then our second biggest demographic is 25 to 31-year-olds.
It's a little bit more grown.
So we have a very mature podcast audience, but my Twitter audience are, sometimes you just got to fry some kids, man.
Yeah, man, you straight roast them. Sometimes I'll just go through your Twitter feed just for fun.
No.
I'm like, man, I want to see the dark side of Baluch.
It's sometimes like I worry because people, I'm like, I wonder how many people, because I have some like imams that follow me.
Whoa.
On like there and on Snapchat, like religious leaders, and I forget. Because like when you're in the moment, when you're like just sitting there on the toilet and you're going through Twitter and someone says something, you just like instantly reply.
Yeah.
And you don't think like, oh.
You had this run where you were going after like brown fuckboys, and I'm like,
oh my God, that was
great.
I take pride in that. That was like, it was the Walla Bros. Because it's like these religious guys who, and it kind of goes across every like religious sect or like every kind of religious group. There's people that use their religion to be misogynistic and be sexist, and they kind of. So I made a classification of how you can identify these guys, like a 10-step guide. Okay. But that's that, yeah. Okay. So hopefully, I don't know. I take pride in my. Because I don't know. It's a deep thing. That'll be for your podcast if you ever start.
Yeah, man, you get turned. Digital Baluch. You know why, man? You know what's so funny is that when I saw that, I was like, oh, maybe the articles are right. They always talk about how quote unquote millennials on like the internet are so different from in real life. Do you feel like that's true? Like real life Ali is different.
No.
They're just as weird.
Maybe you forgot those times we were kicking it, but like I'm pretty cynical, man.
Really?
I'm just like, I remember you're like, hey, so like, how are your roommates? And I was like, I don't talk to my roommates. And you're like,
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
You're like, why are they bad? I'm like, no, they're like the nice people. And I just like come in and don't even say, like, I just go to my room and sit in my room for hours and hours. And you're like, oh, so you're the douchebag of your house. I was like, I guess so, man, but no, I don't know. I feel like my online persona is, and on top of that, like, I feel like you have to be a little bit more extra because I am Muslim. I have to. This is instead of me being
extra what?
Instead of being like extra, like, hey, we're friendly. We're not. I got to be like an extra level of douchiness because if I come on like just a little bit more pious or whatever, or like somewhat nice, if you say anything out of line, your audience will be like, whoa, you're supposed to be like this poster boy for your religion. How dare you say? So if you already have your bar low and you're already a douchebag.
Okay.
If you say something a little bit positive or a little bit good or a little bit like, whatever, they're like, oh, that's nice of him.
Cool.
But I can still keep that baseline. Like I'm not held to like this high standard of like this pious guy that has to like be like.
This sounds so exhausting.
It is. No, it's not. It's
so exhausting.
It's really not because you can just drop down to the like your laziest self.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and then yeah. But then when you're so that's kind of like a little reasoning. But anyways, but one thing, last thing, because I know you got to go.
What's up?
Watch, you guys definitely go. Homecoming King. Some of the shows are sold out. The link is in the description. Find it in the city. How many more cities are left?
I think it's 25, 26. HomecomingKingShow.com. It's really simple.
Yeah.
I know dumb people are going to ask this question. Yeah. Where do I get ticks?
And
it's like literally in my Twitter bio, literally on the website. You could Google it.
That's
literally everywhere.
That's exactly the type of things I get. And then,
in every post for every city, it's like Phoenix, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Ticks.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, where do I get ticks?
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop, we're doing Phoenix and Austin next. I'm going to post the poster for Phoenix.
Okay.
And then I go, hey, dude, when are you coming to LA? It'll be like, yeah.
Okay. So this podcast is going to go up tomorrow morning.
Cool.
Like in a few hours. So you will be in Phoenix tonight.
No. I won't be in Phoenix tonight. I'll be in Phoenix Tuesday or Wednesday and then Austin.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Phoenix tomorrow then. And then Austin after.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
One thing that last thing is that about the show. Okay, never mind.
No. What's up?
It's really it's just like one thing that you said about like immigrant parents,
right?
That like they love to hold secrets.
Yeah.
There's so much I can say about that. I just want to comment that I agreed with that.
Thank you.
Because I feel like our parents, like, we don't know them as well. Oh, man.
There's a whole sub-story.
Oh, my God.
Secrets.
Yeah, so that's, like...
Chamber of Secrets.
So if you guys want to hear more about that, like this episode, and then we'll have him on a future episode. But all your info is going to be in our description, your Twitter, your Instagram.
At hasan, minhaj, yeah.
Yeah, and the link to your show, man.
homecomingkingshow.com, yep.
Thank you for swinging by the apartment, man.
Thanks, Baluch X.
All right, man. Awesome.
All right, cool. Appreciate it, man. That was fun, man.
Oh, man. That was just a lot of information thrown at us in a very smart way, you know. I think this is just a testament to anyone who wants to get into entertainment, and or just not even that, any type of like work that you want to get into. This interview was just like testament of like the hard work you need to put in, and so you can get to where you want to get to. And you know, I feel like Hasan wasn't like a guy that just, I'm sure he took chances by like with his gut instinct on things, but like everything was just really well thought out, and everything was just prepared, and like he hasn't half-assed anything. And like I mentioned in the interview, like when I first got to Los Angeles, I didn't know anything about the industry. I would look up to these guys like without asking them, because I was like, you know, this insecure guy to be like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like I would just watch them and see what they were doing, and I learned a lot from their work ethic, from how serious they were on just like knowing their craft, you know. So I love this, and I feel like the older folks and the kids with dreams will really appreciate this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're trying to be the #1 podcast, and we can't be the #1 podcast without you guys. So make sure to click subscribe. Please share and spread the love of the podcast, but then also spread your hate in the comments. We're not getting enough hate, you guys. And Asif was like, you know what? F this. I'm not going to show up because they're not hating enough. So he's like, maybe if I'm not there, they might be like, this podcast sucks without Asif. And so that's what we're hoping for you guys to say. If you haven't yet, check out our last episode with Uldos, and the one before that with Zach and Waleed, and the one before that with Yuna, and the one before that, and blah, 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 blah. So make sure to subscribe, and shout out to our producers, Imran J Khan and Sumair Khan, for helping us develop this awesome show. And we'll see you guys next week with a surprise, our biggest guest yet. You might find out by the time this is uploaded who it is, but he's the biggest guest we will have. And then we'll have more female guests, I promise, once they reply to my emails. So I'll see you guys next week.